Good afternoon. My name is Saudia White. I am known as the Amazing Amazon. I am the founder of Generational Survivors, and today we are going to present to you a show called Society's Survivor. I have my partner, my producer, Alicia Brown here. She is known
Hi.
as the Joy Guru,
Yes.
founder of the Entrepreneurs Lounge show. Say a couple
Yeah.
tidbits, Alicia. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Our Father. Like she said, I'm Alicia Brown, the Joy Guru, award-winning entrepreneur, book publisher, and transformational speaker. One of the platforms I have is the Entrepreneurs Lounge radio show and podcast. So I'm honored to be here on the first episode of Society Survivors. And Miss Saudia White is really going to tell you what this show is about and why you really need to stay tuned.
Okay, so thank you, Alicia, for that.
Thank you.
I am just excited for both of us to be here on a platform raising awareness. Society Survivors is a show that's going to represent topics that's going on right now, real life issues. What's going on in your backyard?
Right.
Those are things that people don't generally think about during the course of the day, especially now during the times of COVID-19.
Yes.
Everyone's mindset is on the pandemonium from that. So there are topics still, there are different things going on in our communities that still need to be discussed, even more so now because of COVID-19. And that is
Yes.
the reason why we wanted to bring to you all Society's Survivors. We are all survivors in some situation.
Absolutely.
It may not be from domestic abuse. It may not be from sexual assault. It may not be from child molestation. All the things that I was bringing to you from Generational Survivors. But we are all survivors of something, right?
Amen.
And if we get through COVID-19, we will be able to add that to the list when we get through this, because we will get through this time.
Yes.
So we have survived many different things. When we experienced 9/11, those of you who are here and who were able to witness that, you are a survivor of that. Society's survivors. Okay.
Yes.
So we wanted to bring you something different. Everyone watches the news, right?
Yes.
And more so today because we are being told that we have to practice social distancing. We must self-quarantine if necessary. So we have a lot of time on our hands. Our children, if you have children, they're home. Your loved ones are with you if you're not by yourself. And if you're by yourself, you're definitely tuning into the television. And
Yes.
sometimes we're listening to the news, we're hearing the news, we're seeing the news, but we're not able to weigh in on the news. Make sense, Alicia?
Yes, it does.
So Society Survivor is going to give the community an opportunity to weigh in on what's going on in the real world. We want to hear from you because a lot of times the resolutions come from the communities.
Yes.
They have the answers. It might not be all the time. We might have to tweak some things, but listen,
Yes.
it has to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the point of the show, raising awareness,
Absolutely.
hearing from all of you. We want you all to weigh in. The first show for Society Survivors, it will be a 3-part series. Oh my.
At least.
At least a 3-part series. We don't. We have 2 special featured guests that will tell you. So the show is going to air on Mondays and Wednesdays live at noon. We're going to have to bring it to you probably through Zoom. And you'll get all the information through the Facebook page where you can chime in onto the Zoom to see live on Mondays and Wednesdays. But then we're going to take the show to the next level, to the Entrepreneur Lounge show.
Yes.
Podcast show. You'll be able to hear there our 2 featured guests for this special series. this
Yes.
Thursday. So please stay tuned. I want you all to share this information with your family and your friends. What better way to get in tune with your community than really bringing awareness to the topics at hand? You know, people
Yes.
always want to, they're always on Facebook and they're talking about what meals they made. You know,
Yes.
we're doing the fun stuff, and some of us do share some personal things going on. But this is a good way of being able to come express yourselves in a safe
Yes.
environment and offer some healthy resolutions, because nobody has all the answers.
Exactly.
So if you share this out to your family and friends and they hear some things and maybe they have the resolution. We never know, right?
Yes. Yes.
I'm just saying, Alicia, I'm excited about this.
I
I'm
am.
ready to rock and roll.
Yes. And today we're going to talk about one of the populations that many don't necessarily think about when it comes to coronavirus. And that's that population dealing with domestic violence, child abuse, and homelessness. You know, I applaud people that have been doing the food drives because, of course, if you're hungry, you know, and a lot of people are hoarding food. A lot of people are under stress because, you know, you were barely making it paycheck to paycheck. So now, not knowing how long you're going to be in, some people are impacted financially from their jobs, not knowing when, you know, you might get paid, you might get leave. We're in a state of just panic for some of us.
Absolutely.
I applaud the food drives. I applaud those of you in the community that are doing different things as you see a need to do. But there is a population that a lot of people don't necessarily think about unless you're a part of that. And that is definitely those that are dealing with abuse and those that are homeless. There have been a lot of shelters who have had to get the homeless people out because of these restrictions. Where do they go? While you're shut in quarantine, thinking you're trying to prevent the spread, they're out there in the midst of it.
Absolutely.
So they're more vulnerable. But then think about today, we're going to focus especially on those going through abuse and especially children. Because, you know, for some people, and I'll go back to my childhood, you know, I was that child suffering through abuse. So the only safe places I had outside of my home were the library, it was church, and school.
All the places we can't go now.
Right. Those are all on the list. You can't go. So
Wow.
if you imagine being locked in a cage with the tiger, the person that's going to destroy you, that seeks to destroy you, is right there. And you're locked in a confined area and you can't get away. That's what abuse victims are going through right now. You know, some people, it's bad enough maybe if you're an abusive adult, you know, you're in an abuse situation, you're an adult, that, you know, you're at work and you have your partner, you know, threatening you and checking in on you all the time and making you check in. But can you imagine if now you can't even go to work? That person is arm length away from you.
Absolutely.
Using these tactics, the panic we're already having in coronavirus, they're using that against you. But see, unless that's your background or you're currently going through that, you're not hearing much media coverage on that. You might just be a very warm, compassionate person, but this doesn't come on your radar. So that's what this show is going to do: expose those things and redirect those things and look for ways that we can do something or bring awareness to the need that's actually there. So, you know, I'm really excited about the guests that we're going to have come on in
Yes.
at least 3-part series. But Sadia, what's your thought on just the fact about those that are being confined in abusive situations?
Well, you know, Alicia, it's funny that you would say that. I was reading an article from the UN, UNICEF, and hopefully everyone knows what UNICEF is, because I can't.
And we did put those articles, not to interrupt you, but we did give you 2 of the articles we're talking about
On
on
the
the
page.
Generational Survivors Facebook page. So you can look in that and sort of read what she's going to share, because it blew our minds.
Absolutely. It's very important that we continue to stay abreast of topics such as this.
Yes.
I know a lot of people don't want to discuss it, but as I was saying, I was reading that article that is posted on the Generational Survivors page, and the chief of child protection, and his name is Cornelius Williams, he said that in many ways, the disease is now reaching children and families far beyond those it directly infects. Schools are closing.
Yeah.
Parents are struggling to care for their children, okay? Make ends meet, because if the schools are closed and the parents don't have the money as is to pay for childcare, and you're
Right.
being told that you have to quarantine, you have to stay in and social distance, you can't send your child to a daycare center.
Right.
A lot of parents are left without being able to go to work because they
Yeah.
don't have childcare, okay? And they can't afford babysitters. A lot of parents can't afford a babysitter to come in. And during this time, some babysitters may be weary of coming into someone else's home.
Yes.
See? So they're saying that this right here, this is posing a lot of risk, higher risk, okay? And it's continuously rising as we move forward with COVID-19. And these are some of the things that people just don't see. They don't see the everyday struggle of the everyday mother or that grandmother or that
Right.
father that may be on their own with their child. They don't see those everyday struggles, so the protection risks are for children are mounting. It's
Yeah.
mounting. Just to read on further, it said that the UN's Children's Agency was trying to put together with its partners at the Alliance for Child Protection and Humanitarian Action. They have released a set of guidelines that they are to follow to support authorities and other organizations that are involved in this huge response to COVID-19. And I think that's awesome. I think that we need these huge coalitions that sometimes we don't hear from on a daily basis, but during this time they're coming out to offer some feedback. And if they join together and they were actually able to come up with some inclusive ideas as to how one can combat this. How do we move forward as a nation, when it's about being isolated?
Right.
That's a lot, right?
Yeah. And the part you're reading where you said that, in many ways, the disease is now reaching children and families far beyond those it directly infects. We're so worried about the infection and reducing the spread, but there are other issues beyond just catching the virus that sometimes we're not thinking about.
Exactly. There's an epidemic within itself beyond COVID-19. COVID-19 has just heightened the epidemic that we were already dealing with as a society, well, those of us who were directly connected with this, because there are a lot of people who don't like to discuss those issues of domestic abuse and child abuse because it doesn't directly affect them, So during this time where people are so busy being, I don't want to say selfish, but I use that word lightly because there are a lot of people who are giving during this time, but there are a lot of people who are thinking about themselves, and they're not thinking about the neighbor next door. They're not thinking about the elderly who's sick and shut in. They're not thinking about that woman who you've heard her scream many times before, but you've ignored it because you decided that that's her problem. She decided to stay through that. She has the opportunity to leave, but she chose not to leave. I'm minding my own business. Well, this is not the time to mind your own business.
Yes.
This is time to get involved in a safe way.
In a safe way.
And I say that again, in a safe way. I'm not telling you to go knock on that person's door and grab her out and try to. I'm telling our community to be aware of what's happening to your neighbors. Okay? Do your part. Have some due diligence, especially during COVID-19. Look at the child that you used to see walking to the bus stop with their head hung low.
Yes.
You didn't understand what was going on, or you knew something was going on, but you decided to interact. That child, that survive, that victim could be in so much more danger. And that's what they're discussing here in these articles.
Right.
How the abuse has heightened. You know, the cases are rising, just like coronavirus cases are rising. These cases are going to rise as well.
And
Right.
you know, I read that same article, and one of the things they said that because abused children and domestic violence victims were, you know, well, I'll say they're the first I thought of. But one of the things they said that hundreds of millions of children around the world will likely face increasing threats to their safety and well-being, including mistreatment, gender-based violence,
Yes.
exploitation, social exclusion, and separation from caregivers because of actions taken to contain the spread of the COVID-19, also known as coronavirus pandemic. So UNICEF is urging governments to ensure the safety and well-being of children amidst the intensifying socioeconomic fallout the disease. We haven't seen that yet. We're feeling some of the effects, but you really haven't seen the massive economic fallout that's going to ensue from this virus. So it's very serious. And there's so much to think about in these situations like this that prove we are just not prepared for any of this. We're just not prepared.
Alicia, you know how I feel about this. You've heard me many times before.
Yeah.
I feel like this is inexcusable as a nation that we don't have something in place. Look at what took effect with the Ebola virus. Okay, years ago, how that affected Africa on that level.
Yeah.
Thousands of people died from that, right? So I would have thought during that pandemic situation that the United States would have taken some of that information to carry forth something in case of a pandemic situation here in the US. Okay? Something that will prepare the educational system, prepare the shelters to transition for our homeless and our abused, prepare those who are shut in with abusers. What can we do? What resource do we have available? And I know that we do have a lot of resources, but when they're shut in like this, how do we get the resources to them, and how do they get to the resources? The Spanish flu, this is not the first time that we had a pandemic event. Like I said,
but we act like it is.
Look, with the Spanish flu of 1918, troops from around the world transmitted this disease wherever they went. Okay. So look at that. And with American soldiers eventually bringing it home, it became a pandemic. It killed 50 million people.
Wow.
Worldwide. 50 million. And nearly 700,000 Americans. Scholars say that was the historic event most closely associated with this coronavirus.
Sounds like it.
Right. So if that is the case, why aren't we prepared? Why don't we have anything for this?
How soon we forget?
How soon we forget. How soon? I mean, the Spanish flu was just one. Then you had the Asian flu of 1957 through 1958, which was another global showing for influenza. So with its roots, these roots began in China, much like the coronavirus. And these claim more than 1 million lives, Alicia. More than 1 million. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention notes that this disease spread rapidly and was reported in Singapore in February of 1957, Hong Kong in April of 1957, and the coastal cities of the United States in the summer of 1957. So from that, the total death toll was more than 1.1 million. I didn't say thousand. I said the total death toll, listen to this, was more than 1.1 million worldwide, with 116,000 deaths occurring in the United States. So why isn't our nation prepared? Why? Why?
All right.
I'm bringing to you some facts here. I need to know the facts. AIDS, 1981,
well,
claimed an estimated 35 million lives since it was first identified. AIDS. Okay, so this is not our first walk in the park, people.
This is true.
This is not our first walk in the park. Swine flu pandemic.
Yeah.
2010, okay, was caused by a new strain of the H1N1, which originated in Mexico, okay, in the spring of 2009 before spreading to the rest of the world. So what are we doing here in the United States? What are our local politicians doing to govern their localities, their cities? What are on a federal level, what is being done to ensure the safety of the American population when there's a pandemic situation such as this? And I'm not saying that, we have the worst government. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is not our first pandemic situation.
Right.
We need to be prepared. The H1N1 infected as many as 1.4, check this out, billion people. 1.4 billion people across the globe. And killed between 151,700,000 and 574 400,000 people. And this is according to the CDC. These are not facts that I'm making up. I'm not making up these numbers. You can go on the CDC and check the history for yourself, people. That's what I'm bringing to you. We're bringing to you facts. And we just need to know, what is our government? What are our local politicians? What are our localities? What are they going to do? And I know people are saying, well, I'm sure they're researching something now, but to research something now, we should have had it in place. Okay.
You're right.
We should have had these things in place. There are definitely a few others that I didn't mention here, but we are this far up the pike and we are never really prepared, especially when it comes to protecting the most vulnerable. And who is that, Alicia? Who's the most vulnerable?
Well, unfortunately, like you said, it's the most vulnerable citizens that pay the hefty price for our lack of preparation.
Absolutely.
Wow. I know we're going to wrap it up. We're going to give you a few announcements to prepare you for part 2 and what's going to continue on. But, I was thinking you were listening to different things, and depending on who's viewing this, that was way before my time. But actually, you've hit everything. I'm looking at stuff like, oh, I was born then, or, oh, yeah, I do remember. How soon we forget. Mm-hmm. How soon we forget. And, when you're bringing up the point of your politicians, our government, it's so right, because this has nothing to do whether you're conservative, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're independent, has nothing to do with your political party at all. But what you're seeing is the government now, our president, is really having a lot of the control over what happens next in the hands of your governors, your state representatives. They're doing their part here or there, but a lot of the rules and mandates are left up to the governors, the local representatives, the state representatives. We're looking here at the next local election in Virginia being May 5th.
Yeah.
How many of you even know who's on your ballot? whatever state you're watching this from or country, whatever your political system is, whatever your political dates are, how many of you know who's the candidates and where they stand on this? What's their track record? Because when things like this happen, that is where it matters most. Who you put into office if you even voted? Let's start there. And number two, those you put into office or those who are in office, whether you voted for them or not, are you making them accountable? A lot of times we're not.
Accountability.
A lot of times we're not even choosing people based on what really matters. So when this happens and you're upset because, well, this person is not doing this, where did you put those people in office? Or you voted for? Did you check their qualifications for things like this? What's their repertoire? Or were you going with some other thing that swayed you to put them in office where they would be ineffective in situations like this? So this is why we're bringing these topics to you. This is why we're doing the show, because like right now, you know, I looked at for our elections in Virginia. If you go to the website, they're encouraging you to vote by absentee ballot.
Absolutely.
How many of your local representatives or how many of the people that you're looking at as influencers are even sharing that information with you? Because in this panic, you're probably not thinking about, you know, in our case, the May 5th election. And by the time you think of it,
it will be too late.
With you, it's too late. Because I know here as of March 20th, last Friday, you could put in for your absentee ballot. They even gave you the reason on the website to use for that. But by Tuesday, April 28th, that's your last day to turn your ballot back in.
Drop those nuggets, Leisha.
I'm saying. Some of y'all are just going to be thinking by April 28th, you know what? Oh, I didn't think about it. The election is coming up May 5th. Well, how are we going to go out and vote? Maybe we need to, it's too late. April 28th was the day for you to have your ballot in. The census report. Have you filled out your government census?
Hey.
Includes that, you know, influences dollars. How are dollars given to households and things like that? So I'm not even trying to go political with you, but I'm just saying that sometimes the undoing, we have to take our part in that because we didn't do our due diligence.
Absolutely.
When we're all panicking or these things come upon us and we're not prepared, we are a part of the problem with why society isn't prepared. So that's a nugget right there for today for you to think about. And what's your next effort you're going to be doing with your sphere of influence? Because we all have our sphere of influence. Some of these conversations, instead of us talking about how much toilet paper we can get or who got what toilet paper or where's the meat, we need to have some of these conversations. But I want to bring it back home to you too. Imagine that the job, because, you know, we can give you these statistics, we can give you this information, but I want to paint the clear picture of how serious this is.
That's right.
Imagine that the job you and your partner were working and you're barely making it. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You have 2 children you're trying to take care of, all of those stressors. Imagine the job where you and your partner are working, just laid one of you off. One, because in a lot of situations, both people are getting laid off. Or both people's finances are not sure because people can't figure out what they're going to do in this coronavirus. Okay, so I'm going to just say one of you were laid off. Now your partner is on the edge and they're stressed and scared. They're panicking. Their anger is going up. And you're living in fear every moment, you and your 2 kids in this house with this person. Your abuser is drinking more. They're more violent than ever. And you're living on pins and needles every single day. And now, 24 hours a day, you have to be at arm's length from this person. Now, if you thought they controlled your every move before, when you were at work, when you were away from the house, what do you think it's like now? Person, an arm length away from me. Now, that fear is the reality that many abused men, women, and children are going through right now. And coronavirus is just making this worse.
Absolutely.
According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 10 million people every year are physically abused by an intimate partner, and 20,000 calls are placed each day to domestic violence hotlines. 20,000 calls. Now, also, I'm not going to jump ahead, but one of our experts that Saudia was talking to yesterday was saying that some of these people now, you don't have Wi-Fi anymore.
That's right.
You don't have working phones anymore, because think about it, your abuser can control that too. And there's some other things going on with finances. She'll get more into that when we interview her on the podcast. So now you might not be able to make that call, but 20,000 calls a day on anything is alarming when you're talking about distress calls. But researchers have estimated that between 3.3 million and 10 million children are exposed to adult domestic violence each year, according to the Resource Center on Domestic Violence, Child Protection and Custody, which is a project of the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. So when you say your prayers for our nation, when you say your prayers concerning this virus and things are going on, make sure you include this population as well. They definitely need your prayers, especially at a time like this. So, Saudia, as we close, what do you have coming up for our viewers/listeners?
We are in for some special treats.
Oh, I'm ready.
Yes. And I just wanted to touch bases on what you said. The special guest that I talked to last night, she also touched bases on the fact that they don't have the amount of volunteers that they need during this situation.
That too.
Because a lot of their volunteers have to stay home with their children. They can't come out to the center. And a lot of them couldn't come out to the center anyway to help out the shelters anyway because of the social distancing. So they need help in that situation. And she's going to speak more to us about that.
Yes.
More about that. You know, Alicia, as difficult as this is to talk about, these are topics that we need to address.
We have to.
But provide resources and solutions to do so. So on Wednesdays at noon, so on this Wednesday at noon, let me say, our Society Survivors viewers and listeners from today can join us again for our part 2 segment as we deeper on the topics that we touched bases on this here show. It's serious, folks. Serious. Coronavirus has disrupted more than just our health situation.
Amen.
Just that it's a mental thing now. You know, we have to look at mental health. You know, the mental health of people who weren't struggling before.
Amen.
And some people who were living their lives and really didn't have a care in the world, but now that mental health toll is going to raise.
Ooh.
We're not talking. See, people don't want to talk about those issues. And what about those who are already suffering with mental health issues?
Yes.
And they can't go to their therapist. You know, they can't leave their homes. It's so many different topics that have arisen since COVID-19 that were already here. But the level of risk have heightened.
Yes, yes. And you know, because of the importance of this topic, as we already announced, we're going to have the podcast. We're going to have these different experts that we're going to interview.
I'm excited.
So some of these guidelines and some of these things people say, you know, we recommend that you do this, do this. Okay, or they recommend that those in charge of, you know, agencies and things do this, do this. But you know what? Sometimes they've never even talked to those that do it.
Right.
Recommendations for the people, but you haven't even talked to them to see what their issues are. You just assume or based on, you know, theory. So we don't want to do things based on theory. We want to talk to those that have boots on the ground. They're invested in this. We want to hear directly from them the challenges that they're facing and not, you know, just people in our backyard. We want to hear directly from them the challenges that they are facing. So we'll be doing that with the Entrepreneurs Lounge. And because it is a global show, we'll have, you know, the experts here, and we'll have people that can listen in and weigh in from their part of the globe, what's going on. So we look forward to that. We should have the flyers, advertisements, all of those things out within the next 24 hours, so you can see the experts, know what agencies they're coming from. And that will be on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you pay attention on Facebook to Generational Survivors page, if you pay attention to the Entrepreneurs Lounge page, we will have all of that information for you so you can chime in. But even as we wrap up now, if you're looking at this broadcast, if you are a professional that has resources in this area or have comments, or if you're a person, viewer listening that has questions, drop them in the comments fields for wherever you're viewing this information, because we will respond. If you go to the Facebook pages, any of the social media pages, the website for the Entrepreneurs Lounge is TheEntrepreneursLounge.info. If you go to that information and you know, there's contact resources, but anywhere where you place comments where you're viewing this, we will definitely get back to you or take those things in consideration for the next broadcast or show. And please make sure that you share this information, because if you don't feel like it impacts you, it definitely impacts someone around you. And this needs to be heard. So with that, I'm going to let the last words go to the visionary for the Society Survivors.
Thank you so much, Alicia. You highlighted so many nuggets, so much that people need to know about. And I'm not going to you stay on long. We basically dropped you all some nuggets as to where you can come and hear the show. The Generational Survivors page, a lot of you have been invited to it on Facebook. You have to accept your invitation. So go back through your invitation. I can't invite you again once I've invited you. Your invitation, if you haven't claimed it, is still there. So if you want to hear the show or see what we have going on, you'll be able to find that information also on the Generational Survivors Facebook page, as well as my personal page. And as you heard from Alicia, the Entrepreneurs Lounge page, EntrepreneursLounge.info. Okay. We just want to hear from you. Join us again this Wednesday at noon. You'll see the information posted. As Alicia said, we'll get those
updates
to you.
Yes.
We'll get those updates to you. Society's survivors.
Yes.
Necessary. Tune in for more. I wanted to tell them about our special guest, or should I keep it a surprise?
Let's keep that as a surprise.
Yeah.
Y'all have to stay connected to the pages when we share that.
Stay connected. All right.
All right.
Long, be blessed. Stay prayed up as a nation. I believe in the 2 P's: prayer and preparation.
Absolutely.
Not panic. Prayer and preparation. Those are 2 keys. 2 key P's. So let's pray as a nation that moving forward, we will have some healthy resolutions.
Amen. And that says it all. So bye-bye for now.